can't get to heaven.
No, you can't get to heaven
In a mini skirt.
in a mini skirt.
'Cause God don't want
'Cause God don't want
no little flirts.
no little
No,
flirt.
you can't get to heaven in a mini skirt. 'Cause the Lord don't want no little flirts. No, you can't get to heaven in a mini skirt. 'Cause the Lord don't want no little flirts.
All right.
You want to introduce us, Jess?
Oh, yes. Welcome, everyone, to You Can't Get to Heaven in a Miniskirt podcast. My name is Jessica.
My name's Sarah.
And if you'd like to follow us on social media, we are hardcore on Instagram at Heaven in a Miniskirt. I like how I said hardcore. I don't know why I said that.
We are hardcore. I got into some heated debates today.
Did you really?
The Harrison butt crack thing I posted.
Butt crack. That guy. Okay. Like by the time this episode comes out, it'll be 2 weeks from
Yeah.
now. So this will be a bit of a died out story, I think. But my goodness, it is the backlash that guy is getting is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And he deserves every
There's
second
like
of
a
it.
dude that's defending him in our comments.
I'm going to have to go read it. I'll go read it.
This guy's like a big business guy with a Christian wife. And
Oh, I cannot wait. Okay, I'm going to check him out. But if you guys would like to support the show, I just want to shout out our Patreon, patreon.com/heaven in a miniskirt. We have great bonus episodes on there. You can also get our bonus episodes on Apple Podcasts. We have quite the backlog now, so you could always sign up, listen to them all, and then cancel your membership. That's cool too.
but if you are one of our patrons,
You should stay.
you should stay. We would
You
love
should
that for
stay.
us.
We would love that. It keeps us able to do the podcast.
The lights on and the mic's warm.
The lights on and mics warm. Yeah, we don't need much, but we need a little tiny bit to keep it going. Because yeah, producing a podcast actually isn't free, so that's okay. So
So
yes,
today this is part 5, which is probably the longest series that we have ever done.
this is our Were They Gay series. We currently have 4 out right now. I have a Spotify playlist of all of the Were They Gay episodes that I'm going to put in the show notes if you want to listen to them.
And you don't need to listen to them, but it is Pride Month. And so why not add another one to our collection for your
Mhm.
enjoyment?
And so what is this one, Sarah?
For number 5, I have picked Joseph. And actually, I didn't pick this. Like I had a question a couple months ago and people suggested Joseph and the coat of many colors.
Yeah, so Sarah said this to me, and I was like, this reminds me of Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, which I think is a musical. And you're like, that's what this is. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? And then I haven't looked into it at all because I wanted to come into this blind. So I am shocked that this is a musical, but I have several questions that we will get to, and I'm excited to dive in.
We can do that. We can kind of dive right in. I'll give some context. We got Jacob. Do you know who Jacob is? Remember Jacob and Esau?
Sorry, no. I was a great Christian, as we know. I retained a lot of information.
Anyways, they were Jacob and Esau, and this is all within the book of Genesis here. Jacob is Joseph. Joseph is Joe. We're just gonna call him Joe. Way easier than saying Joseph.
Joseph is.
Joseph's is he's Joe's dad. So Jacob is Joe's dad.
Are we talking about Joseph, like Mary and Joseph?
No,
Oh.
no.
Okay,
Bro,
that's
Genesis, get in the context.
Bro,
Genesis.
I thought this entire time that you
No,
were
you
prepping
didn't.
this
No, you didn't.
episode that
Stop.
we're talking about Jesus as well.
You thought Jesus' stepdaddy had a rainbow coat? Girl.
I didn't know there were multiple Josephs in the Bible.
Yeah. This is the OG Joe. OG Joe.
Oh, OG Joe. Oh,
Yeah.
no. Okay, I thought maybe Jesus' stepdad, had a pretty cool coat.
No. I mean,
Okay, we're on to Genesis. Okay, sorry, listeners. I am the dumbest person alive.
okay, so Genesis. So I'm going to give you some context. So remember Isaac?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
Abraham's son.
Isaac is Abraham's son. Isaac marries Rebecca. Isaac and Rebecca have Jacob and Esau, twins, fraternal twins.
Okay.
So Jacob then goes on and marries Leah and Rachel, who are sisters.
Wait, what?
But he gets tricked into this.
He married 2 people.
Yeah, so basically what happened is like Jacob, he like saw this woman Rachel when he was, I don't know, passing through some place. I don't want to get too into it. Fell in love with her, and then her dad surprised him and like gave him Leah on the wedding day and was like, just kidding, you got to work for me for another X amount of years before you can have Rachel. So he's married to Leah and Rachel. So he loves Rachel. He's not a big fan of Leah. There's the drama that there would be between sisters married to the same person. And then like there's also the concubines, Bilhah and Zippa and Bilhah. So these are all the children. These are all the children of Jacob and his 4 wives. So we got Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joe, and then Benjamin. And then they had one daughter named Dinah. Moving on. So that's like a little bit of context. So he's the second youngest brother out of like the 12 brothers, which would go on to form the 12 tribes of Israel, which probably sounds familiar to you, right?
Yes, it does.
We like 12. We like the number 12 in the Bible. So that is his context. And then I thought that we could start off with a lovely kids Bible story on YouTube to show you the story.
God. Great.
Give a quick overview. So I'm going to pop up that link. I think we've used this particular YouTube channel before.
Is this
Shout out to them.
Oh, what's it called again?
I don't.
Oh, Saddleback Kids. That's what it's called.
Yeah, Saddleback Kids.
All right, let's go.
Faithful Hall of Fame. So this is Joseph. You see, Joseph was the son of Israel and Rachel.
I thought that his name was Jacob.
Let me just Google this real quick. Oh, Jacob once wrestled with an angel, and that angel or divine being changed his name to Israel. Okay, cool. Makes sense.
Cool. All right, let's go with that. All right, of course he wrestled with an angel. Okay.
Israel loved Joseph more than all 12 of his sons. In fact, he made Joseph a coat to show him how much he loved him. When Joseph's brothers saw this, they hated Joseph. One night, Joseph had a dream. When he awoke, Joseph told the dream to his brothers. He said, "Listen to this dream I had. We were gathering grain when suddenly my bundle of grain rose up and all of you bowed to me." This made his brothers hate Joseph even more. And they said, "You're gonna rule over us?" Then Joseph had another dream.
Oh my God, this guy's the
Like,
worst.
shut up, Joseph.
And he told it to his brothers and his father. He said,
He's so annoying.
"Listen, I had another dream. And this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." This time, Israel heard the dream and rebuked Joseph, saying, "Will your mother and brothers and I actually come and bow down before you?" The brothers were even more angry when they heard the second dream. Israel, however, decided to think about what Joseph was saying. One day, Joseph's brothers were working when they saw Joseph coming to meet them. One of his brothers mocked him and said, "Here comes the dreamer. Come on now, let's kill him and throw him away to be devoured by a ferocious animal.
Let's just murder
And we'll
this guy.
see what comes of his dreams." One of the brothers named Reuben wanted to rescue Joseph, so he said, "Let us not take his life. Instead, throw him in the pit." So when
This is the
Joseph
pit.
came to his brothers, they attacked him, took the robe their father had given Joseph. They hoisted Joseph up and threw him into the well. Then they saw a group of men from Midian coming towards them. Judah thought it would be a good idea to sell Joseph to these men. So the brothers sold Joseph to the merchants for 20 shekels. The brothers then took the coat of many colors back to their father and made him believe that Joseph had been killed. Israel wept for his son whom he loved. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken as a slave to Egypt to work in the house of a man named Potiphar. For Joseph's story was
Oh.
only just beginning.
Oh, Potiphar's wife. That's Joseph.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, so we'll get into that because this doesn't get into all of it, but we can get into it.
All right.
Yeah, do you have any initial thoughts? Like, is that ringing any bells? I know you weren't sure which Joe we were talking about.
So none of it rang a bell until they said Potiphar at the end. And then I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I know about that story. Because Mark Driscoll likes to talk about Potiphar's wife and Joseph.
Of course he does. Of course he does.
So does Joseph's father think that he's dead forever?
I'm not going to spoil the ending.
Oh, sorry. There's more to the story. Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna start off with focusing on the first half of the story, where like up until like Potiphar's wife. I don't want to spoil it for you, Jess.
Okay.
There's
You know what? Just take me on a journey, Sarah.
I'm going to take you on a journey. So, Joseph, there's a lot about Joseph in the Bible, and we can't possibly go through all of it. His life is from Genesis 37 all the way to Genesis 50. So,
Good God.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
I thought that we could start off with going through the story and picking out the parts that could be interpreted as queer.
Oh yeah, I forgot that's what we're talking about today, right?
Yeah.
Was he gay?
I mean, there's so many directions we could go in. Like, this makes me think like we need to get into Bilhah and Zilpah and all the wives of Joseph/Israel sometime.
You mean Jacob/Israel?
Jacob/Israel, yeah. So we're gonna be looking through Genesis, but also the Midrash. Do you know what the Midrash is?
No.
So the Midrash is a genre of rabbinic literature that seeks to interpret, explain, and expand upon the narratives found in the Hebrew Bible.
Did you know what this was?
No, I had no idea.
Okay. I'm like, am I supposed to know this? This is so obscure.
These are rabbinic writings, so written by rabbis between 400 and 1200 CE. And so it kind of like fills in some of the gaps and provides commentary on the reading. It tells additional stories, provides ethical teachings and theological insights. So that's the Midrash.
Okay.
If I pronounce that wrong, I apologize. There are some elements of the Midrash that make things in the story seem a little more queer. So we'll start off with like looking at the parts of the Bible that could be interpreted through a queer lens related to Joseph's story. So we start off with Genesis 37 verse 2.
Am I going to read this?
Yes, you will.
These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, being still a lad, even with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought evil report of them unto their father. Huh?
So Joseph was a little bit of a tattletale.
Okay.
Like, they're doing this and that, and he's bragging about his dreams. He's sharing like multiple dreams he's having. So he's getting his brothers pissed off.
Mhm.
For context here, though, in this verse, the term lad is used. So ne'ar, and that is the word. And it suggests youthful demeanor, possibly indicating that he was kind of effeminate in nature, because usually at age 17, you'd be expected to be like referred to as a man.
Okay.
He was effeminate. And that doesn't necessarily mean he was queer, but it's just building the case for what is to come.
I just also want to say that, like, Joseph, like, people have dreams all the time and they're nonsense. And it's so annoying that so many people in the Bible are like, I had a dream and now this is scripture that people need to follow forever.
Well, just like it also seems very conceited.
Yes.
Like I would be pissed off too if my brother was running around being like, I had a dream that I'm so much better than you. And I had another dream that I'm so much better than you too. Like I'd be like,
okay,
screw you. Like, so I can see why the brothers were a little ticked off with Joe here. In Genesis 39, verse 6, Joseph is referred to as, it says, now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance, but the word used for handsome is also used 2 other times in the Bible. And do you think it's translated as handsome in those contexts?
No, obviously not.
No. So in Genesis 29:17, it says Rachel, so Joe's mom, Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. And then in Genesis 12:11, referring to Sarai, Abraham's sister/wife, I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance. So the feminization of this is interesting, that he's being referred to in almost identical language to his mother.
Okay.
Now we're into the coat. We all love the coat here.
Oh, yeah, the coat. Is this why we think he's gay? Because he had a cool coat? And only gay men can have nice clothes, apparently.
We'll get into it, okay?
Okay.
So this is Genesis 37, verse 3. I'm going to paste it in the chat so you can read it.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a long robe with sleeves. Oh, sorry, Israel. I thought Israel was like the nation. I got really confused. Okay, so now Israel/Jacob, that's his father, loved Joseph. Okay, and he made him a robe with sleeves, apparently. We need to specify that it had sleeves.
It had sleeves. So, number one, not related to the queer interpretation of this verse. Like, Jake here is not helping the situation by like clearly being like, I love you more.
Yeah.
So you're getting special things. Like, that's favoritism.
Yeah, with the favorite child usually isn't well liked by the other children.
especially when there's like 12 other children. The garment in here, the word for this garment is ketenet pasim in Hebrew.
And that's the word for the long robe with sleeves?
Yeah, the long robe with sleeves. Sometimes it's translated as a coat of many colors. However, the only other time that this is mentioned in scripture is in 2 Samuel 13:18, and it is a princess's attire.
Oh.
So now she, Tamar, was wearing a long robe with sleeves, for thus were the virgin daughters of King Clad of old. So Tamar was a princess, and she was wearing that garment, and it was said that was what the virgin daughters of the king wore. So so this could be translated to princess robe if we really wanted to.
Interesting.
So he's wearing a garment that the only other time is referred to as a garment that women would wear.
This seems less gay and more just like trans.
Yeah, it could be trans. This is where we're saying queer. So,
was he queer? Yes. Okay.
yeah, was he queer?
Yes.
We're going to keep it like,
A little more open.
we're going to keep it open. We're going
Yes.
to keep it open. So it was specifically for royal virgin daughters. Interesting, right? He's wearing princess attire.
I wish I could wear princess attire.
And it gives him like a unique identity that is possibly more feminine.
Yeah.
He's wearing something that denotes feminine virgin status.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then we go on to his dreams, and there's like corn in the field, like the sheaves that arose. And some people will interpret that as like him having a big erection and everyone else being flaccid around him. I don't know. I don't really I think that's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah. I have heard interpretations of other verses that are more of a stretch than that, but
So now we get into the midrash, or the rabbinic literature. And so this one is like very interesting. It says that both Jacob and Joseph are born circumcised. Like they're already born circumcised.
it's okay. That doesn't happen, but all right. Is that something that's ever happened in modern era?
I mean, we could Google that, but it'd be a little weird.
Yeah. I don't want that to show up on my Google.
No, exactly. The queer reading of this would be that like this aligns with women because women did not in that tradition undergo circumcision. So it puts him in a space that transcends typical male experience. Also, another part in the Midrash that's interesting is they describe him in engaging in like typically girlish behaviors, like penciling his eyes, lifting his heel when he walked, curling his hair.
What?
Yeah.
That is so random.
Right?
Where do they get this from?
The Midrash. This was written after the fact, but this is like the Jewish commentary within their tradition
Yeah.
described him as doing that.
Wonder where they got that from. That's what's so interesting about any kind of like interpretation of the Bible. It's like sometimes you're just pulling this out of your ass.
And I didn't look deep enough into the Midrash, but again, I know that it's just like it's not scripture.
Okay.
Then we're jumping back to the Bible. I feel really bad for Joe. If we're going to the context, like he's a little bit of a weenie. Like we don't really like him. He's bragging, he's ratting out his brothers,
Yeah.
all of this.
Yeah. There's kids like this. It happens.
But hopefully if you're like that, your siblings don't plot to kill you.
Or to sell you into slavery. Yes.
His brothers, they're pissed off. Good old Reuben, though. I kind of like Reuben because Reuben was like, let's just put him in the pit. And Reuben had a plan to go back and save him later and bring him back to his dad. But then the Ishmaelite traders were coming by and they're like, ooh, let's get some money. We'll like make it seem like he died. So they killed a sheep and then they put the blood from the sheep all over the nice coat. And then they took that back to daddy and they're like, he must have been attacked by a wild animal. We found his bloody coat.
And they ruined the nice coat.
Yeah, they ruined the nice coat.
What a waste.
The princess dress.
What a waste of a princess dress.
I know. What a waste of a flashy coat of many colors.
Maybe they could wear it for Halloween.
They didn't have Halloween back then, silly.
Yeah, they did. No, I'm kidding. Can you imagine if I was like, what?
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe the pagans did. Again, we're not getting into parallel historical narratives here.
Stay on track.
Yeah, stay on track. So then he gets sold. The Ishmaelite traders bring him to Potiphar. So the Ishmaelites took him to Egypt.
Mhm.
And they bought him for 20 shekels of silver.
Mhm.
I read in one of the articles I read, they said that typically male slaves would be sold for 30 shekels of silver. So this was kind of an insult or saying that he's not really a man for selling him less than that, which kind of does play into the sort of gender fluid queer narrative here. And so he gets brought to Potiphar. Potiphar was one of Pharaoh's officials. He was like fancy, big-eyed dude. Potiphar really liked Joseph, and he became like the person that was in charge of like basically all the things that Potiphar owned. He was running the household.
He was like the head slave.
He was the head slave. Yeah. Servant, slave, head slave. Yeah. The Lord blessed the household. The blessing of the Lord was on everything of Potiphar, both in the house and in the field. Now Joseph was well built and handsome.
I like how can you just specify that again?
Yeah, we need to say again. Now Joseph was well built and handsome.
This guy was hot. All right. Don't forget it.
And after a while, the master's wife noticed and said, "Come to bed with me." But he refused. He said, "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns is entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am." Oh, he's still such a weenie. "My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her.
It's because he's such a good guy. He's just such a good guy.
Such a good guy. Now he's like, "I'm so important. The only thing I didn't get is you, because you're his property, but everything else." And then she's like, she ran after him once and grabbed his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." And then she left. He like ran away. And so she's like holding his cloak. And then she was like, "Okay, I'm going to lie about this now." So she basically accused him of rape because she had his cloak. And then Potiphar didn't really believe her. When he heard it, he's like, "This is how your slave treated me." He burned with anger. Joseph's master took and put him in prison.
But then he became like the best one in the prison.
Yeah, he worked his way up because he was interpreting dreams.
Seriously?
Yeah.
This guy, seriously. What a
The
loser.
king, there were two of the king's officials that were in custody with him. And one of them was the cupbearer, whatever that does. And one of them was the chief baker. He had a dream that the cupbearer would essentially be like let out and reinstated as the cupbearer. And then there was another dream that the chef had. And the chef was like, "Is this bad?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's bad. You're going to die and your body will be eaten by birds." And that's what happened. He was killed. Then the cupbearer's out and he's like doing his thing. Pharaoh is like really struggling. Pharaoh's having a lot of like bad dreams. And it's like it was Pharaoh's birthday and he's having a big feast. He's having a big party. And he's just like, "These dreams are driving me crazy." And the cupbearer was like, "I know a guy. He's in prison, but his name is Joe and he could interpret your dream." And so
Your narration is wonderful.
Pharaoh was having a dream about like 7 cows. Some of them were fat, some of them were thin. Anyway, I don't really care about the dream. So basically he sent for Joseph.
Yeah.
Joseph interpreted the dreams. Again, he's very confident because Pharaoh's like, "No one can do it." And then Joseph said, "I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Okay, so he's humbly a man of God.
Yeah, he seems humble.
Pharaoh loves him. Pharaoh puts him in charge of Egypt. So now we're getting to...
Now he's just in charge of the whole country at this point.
Yeah.
Wow, Joseph is really working his way up the ladder.
Yeah, Joseph. So it's the heading is actually called Joseph in Charge of Egypt. In case you want to follow along, this is like Genesis 41.
I like the Sarah interpretation of the Bible. It's a lot more interesting.
Pharaoh said, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You will be in charge of my palace, and people are submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you." Then Pharaoh puts him in charge of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joe's finger. And he dressed him in fine robes of linen and put a gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in chariot as his second in command.
Okay, this sounds a little...
Wedding-y.
Yeah.
So then they're in front of everybody. And he says, "I am Pharaoh, and without your word, no one will lift a hand or foot in all of Egypt." Pharaoh gave Joseph the name Zaphanath Paneah.
Okay.
Then he gave him Asnath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, to be his wife. And Joseph went on and had Manasseh and Ephraim he had 2 kids. But we are circling back to the Pharaoh of it all. Okay. Just back to Potiphar's wife. Some people are like, "Oh, wow, him refusing Potiphar's wife, very gay." I think that's silly. Like, he was just like, "I shouldn't have sex with you because I'm working for your husband." So
Yes, there's lots of different reasons why somebody might not want to sleep with someone.
exactly. Then he ends up going to prison. Ooh, Can I circle back? Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Okay. And also with his relationship with Potiphar's kind of question, because he was sold for the 20 shekels instead of 30, some people are like, maybe he was viewed as a female slave and maybe he was sold into sexual slavery. Again, I really think that's a stretch. So
usually it's 30, and I thought maybe they just got it like a nothing for him because they just wanted to get rid of him.
maybe.
His brothers just hated him, so they didn't really care. That's another interpretation.
But then when we get into Pharaoh, the term that he uses in Genesis 41:40, he says, "You shall be in charge of my house, and all my people shall be governed according to your word. Only with regard to the throne will I be greater than you." So the queer reading of this, the Hebrew term for house implies a domestic partnership, and governed can be translated to kiss.
You're going to kiss everybody. Is that what he's
Yeah.
saying? You get a kiss. You get a kiss.
It's like an intimate language. And then, Pharaoh's also like giving him his ring, putting fine linen on him and like a gold chain around his neck. And then it says, as he was riding in the chariot with him, a second in command, people were shouting, "Bow the knee." But what does that actually mean? Bow the knee is actually can be translated as congratulations. So, it's a public ceremony. They're riding together and people are like, "Congratulations. Pharaoh's ring looks so good on you, Zaphanath Paneah." And so the name, this new name that he gives them, like traditionally, like in marriage, sometimes like you would be given a new name.
Yeah.
And Paneah can mean face or mouth. So maybe a little intimate connection there. Okay. So far, I'm just going to do a quick recap. So far, he is, in the very least, I would say, a little gender bending, right? Like it's not the norm. It seems like he's effeminate. If we listen to the midrash, like he like curling his hair and lining his eyes and walking on his tiptoes, and he was all beautiful, and he wore a princess robe and maybe had a thing with Pharaoh. We don't know. But either way, I would go to say that he was definitely effeminate.
Yeah. He doesn't seem like a traditional Christian masculine man. There's enough, I guess, interpretations that shows that, okay, this guy he's effeminate and he's a little bit of a weenie. And he seems really manipulative.
A little bit.
He climbed the corporate ladder so fast. Now he's in charge of Egypt. He's in charge of the country. That's a lot.
Crafty.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but he's crafty. That's for sure.
Have you heard of the fraternal birth order effect?
No. Yes. Wait. That sounds familiar.
Men with older brothers are more likely to be gay. There have been studies that have, what I'm reading right now, analyzed like 10 scientific studies. And so like people with older brothers are more likely to be gay. Again, this is very anecdotal, but he was like number 11 out of 12 and all of those older brothers, right? So maybe.
Okay. If you have one older brother, you're more likely to be gay. What if you have like 12 older brothers? Okay. Yeah. You don't even know how gay this guy can be.
But what if some of them are by the Zilpah and the Bilhah and the...
Yeah. I guess they're half brothers.
Again, I thought it was an interesting fact.
That is an interesting little fact. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, but it's a purely anecdotal and fun to speculate, which is what we're doing today.
Yeah. And like in the end, we will finish off the story. So
okay. Yes.
In the end, Joe ends up being in charge of Egypt. And then there's a big famine. And then his brothers don't have any money or any food or anything. So they go to get rations. They like travel very far to the land of Egypt to get food. And then they don't recognize him, but he recognizes them. And then they come back a second time. And then he reveals himself to them. And then they go and get Dad. And Dad's like, "Oh my God, you're alive." And then they all come and settle there and he forgives them.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's nice. I thought he was definitely going to be like, "You guys can starve."
Nope.
Okay.
No. And he lives out the rest of his life with Apnath, his wife.
Oh, so he has this wife, but he's still working
sons.
with the Pharaoh, or is he done?
He's still working with the Pharaoh. They're still buds. So,
okay.
So I think that when you are bringing a queer interpretation to anything, it's tricky when it's such a long time ago. Tricky when I don't speak Hebrew.
So when we did our first episode, David and Jonathan.
Okay, that was like crystal clear.
So obvious he was gay.
Yeah.
And I think as we've gone down the line of all of our were they gay, it becomes more obscure and less.
I don't know. I think Paul was pretty gay.
Yeah, actually, you know what? You're right. Okay, so it's been all over the place, I guess is a better way to put it. This one feels definitely Well, because the Old Testament is like so up to interpretation. The whole thing is up for interpretation. When you start to look, like you said, into like the original writings and what each word means, you can use that for any purpose that you want. And right now we're just using it for the purpose to be like, this guy seems queer. People interpret the Bible in all sorts of ways. So I feel like it is a bit of a stretch only because we just don't have enough information. But there are some interesting things in there for sure.
There have been a lot in pop culture around this. Like one thing that we haven't touched on yet was Joseph Technicolor Dreamcoat. And you did not know that was, you were thinking that this was Jesus' stepdaddy.
I thought a lot of things. You know what, Sarah? Let's not worry about it too much.
So Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat is a musical.
Yes.
Written with lyrics by Tim Rice and music by Andrew Lloyd Webber.
What? Andrew Lloyd Webber?
Yeah.
Oh man. I am like, I had no idea. Okay.
Who's Andrew Lloyd Webber?
Andrew Lloyd Webber. He did Cats.
He did Cats?
Yeah.
Stop. Okay, so
Jellicle, songs for Jellicle Cats. Yeah, I did Cats. I was in the musical Cats when I was in high school.
So he wrote this in 1965.
Jesus Christ Superstar. He did that too.
Okay.
And a fan of the opera as well.
Is he Mormon?
That's a really good question. He's English, which doesn't mean I don't know how popular Mormonism is in Britain.
No, there's missionaries all over the world, Jess.
He says he's agnostic in 1970.
Okay.
So
we'll probably just assume he's still agnostic.
Yeah, maybe he just used scripture for his musicals because why not? It's a good reference.
Okay, so this is some trivia on Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Oh, God.
By 2008, how many schools and amateur theater groups do you think had staged this production?
15,000.
More than 20,000.
Whoa.
So this is like very, very popular.
Yes.
So it's basically like a musical version of Joe's life. It's basically a musical version of Joe's life. And he's not actually gay in the story. Though, but I always thought that
Shocking.
I always thought that he like would be because, you know, like it's Technicolor.
He has a very fabulous coat. Okay. It is fabulous. But he loses it so early on.
I know.
So then what? Oh, we gotta watch this musical, Sarah. We're gonna have to find out where it's playing.
Yeah, I know. Or watch an amateur version of it. But the lore, there is so much lore around this coat. Because even Dolly Parton wrote a song about her coat of many colors. Have you heard about that?
No. That's so interesting because it's just such a small part of the story. He just had a coat and his brothers were like, fuck this coat. And then that was like the end of the coat. What kind of importance are people putting on this Technicolor Dreamcoat besides the musical? Because I feel like the musical might have created some lore around it.
I think people just like a bright, long-sleeved princess coat. Who doesn't want a bright, flashy coat?
Yeah, that's true. I do like a bright, flashy coat.
So I think it's it's a very different portrayal of masculinity because he's referred to as a boy,
a lad.
He's referred to as beautiful. Mm-hmm. And the way that he rose to the top was not by brute strength, but by intellect or conniving.
We're not sure. Let's just say intellect and we'll leave it at that because it could be good or bad.
Or also God, because he got the ability to interpret dreams. What if he was just a really good con man?
I don't want to be a total dick, but if somebody was I am interpreting dreams and now I'm leading a country, I would be like, you sound like a con artist. I know that sometimes people can find meanings in their dreams, but I think it's best to be kept vague. Right? You dream about such and such and it means that you have some anxiety you need to deal with or whatever. And there are interpretations for dreams. But if somebody is so confidently being this specific dream about all these cows means that blah, 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 it screams con artist.
Yeah. Maybe he was a bit of a con artist.
Yeah. Okay.
He definitely was not well liked in his first part of his life. No. It's really so I love that for him that he was able to move to the big city and
realize his dreams.
Yeah. I feel that's a common parallel though. Right?
Maybe his linen coat was even better than his first coat.
Maybe. Yeah, the one that Pharaoh gave him must have been pretty damn nice. Yeah. And then he got a gold chain and some rings. So he's I'm living my best life. But you know what? In the end, he was very forgiving. If my siblings were to sell me into slavery and then claim my death, and then I would probably not talk to them again. And if I saw them again, I would probably be like, F you.
You know what I'm so obsessed with lately is reading Am I the Asshole on Reddit. It is like the worst.
I love Am I
rabbit
the
hole. Okay,
Asshole?
I know. It's just like, it is such trash, right? So love it. And so I imagine this being on Am I an Asshole? And then somebody just being like, you need to cut out your family.
Yeah, they'd be
Because
like,
that's just what it reminded me of.
yeah. It would be Ruben being like, am I the asshole? Like, my brothers were all mad and like wanted to kill my brother. And I was like, let's just put him in a hole. And then I
Yeah.
was going to rescue him. But then he got sold.
And then I didn't, and now he's gone. Am I the asshole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Ruben's definitely my favorite in that piece.
Yeah. Or like Judah being like, yeah, now, there's a famine and I'm starving and I got to go to my brother who I sold into slavery. Am I the asshole?
Or poor little Benjamin. I don't even know that Benjamin was there because he was like younger than Joseph too.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything about him.
You know the part that sucks though?
What?
Zilpah and
Yeah.
Bilal. They would have their babies and then their babies would be taken away and given as like, you are the concubine. So these are actually the children of Rachel or Leah now.
That's unfortunate.
It's like Handmaid's Tale vibes. Like Handmaid's Tale is like based on a lot of this. So in the end, is this case super strong? I think that we don't want to be so rigid in our gender stereotypes to assume that someone who loves a fabulous princess dress and likes putting on makeup is gay. But are they more likely to be queer than not queer? I would say yes. What do you think?
Yeah, they're definitely on some sort of queerness as a spectrum, right? So I'd say this person, Joe seems to be on the queer spectrum. What gender he's attracted to is up for debate, or what gender he identifies as is up for debate. But it doesn't seem like he is a straight cis man, Like he seems like he's got a little bit of fluidity to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though recognizing that these are all these concepts of, like gender being a spectrum and gender identity and sexuality, even the same labels were not used across different cultures, although people that express outside the gender binary and people that are attracted to people of other genders have always existed, obviously.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that just because trans people are more visible nowadays doesn't mean they haven't always existed. Even however many thousands of years ago this was, trans people existed and gay people existed. I don't know how accepted it was back then in Pharaoh's time. Would it have been just maybe swept under the rug? Because clearly, like, he had this fabulous coat and nobody was like, we hate you because you're trans. They're just like, we hate you because you're a weenie.
Exactly.
So there's no talk of like, oh, he was a beautiful lad and he wasn't manly and therefore we hate him.
I think that sometimes, like, so for example, on Mother's Day, on our podcast Instagram account, I posted, Happy Mother's Day. Remember that Ruth and Naomi had a baby together and we're both the mom. And then there's actually like someone I blocked. I don't always block people, but this guy he was like, this is so dumb. It's another deep dive by Sarah and Jess. And I'm like, yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, I know. Ouch.
Our deep dives are cool, man.
The point isn't that I 100% believe that Ruth and Naomi were a same-sex couple. He's like, he was like, you don't think that close platonic relationships can exist between women and you're sexualizing a mother-in-law
So
and
do you think
daughter-in-law?
that this person even listened to our episode? Because we like straight up are like, they're probably not gay.
I don't know that they actually listened, or maybe they didn't listen to all of it.
I think that's what's really annoying, and maybe annoying to other people, is that like we're going into this being like, was Joseph queer? Like, this is all a gray area. There's no black and white here. We're just like, this is interesting and that's interesting. Was he queer? We can make our own judgments based on the evidence that we see, but we don't know.
You can't even prove that he actually like existed as a human being, let alone what his gender identity or sexuality was.
Yeah, like, did this even happen? We don't know.
We don't know. But like at the end of the day, honestly, why do we do this? Why do we do these quote unquote deep dives, as the person said? I would say because we grew up in churches where cis heteronormativity was the only way, the only right way to be. And so I think that it is healthy and it is therapeutic to put a queer lens onto certain stories, because you know what? If this story actually happened, if there are queer people that have existed throughout time, and so we're looking at someone who broke the mold and was not your typical
Straight
masculine dude, I think we have the right to interpret that. Like, we are not making sweeping accusations that like this is 100%. It's really more for fun. Reimagining.
I think that's what's so annoying about Instagram, and everybody, like, we all interpret the world through the lens that we were taught unless we challenge that. And so like, why is it such a big deal to this commenter this guy that we are saying this. Like, clearly he is offended by that, which I think is the bigger problem. Like, I don't even want to give this person any space in my head rent free. But it is kind of like an interesting thing when you post stuff like this and you get the comments from people that are like so angry. They are so triggered by what you're saying.
There are people that comment, like there was one, like the one that commented today that I went back and forth with a bit. I didn't fully agree with him. I was like, you're like a little mansplaining for me, but like
I have seen you actually comment on people's sort of rude comments and they're like, oh, that was actually a really nice response. Thank you. And you can see that they're not used to having any kind of dialogue. They're just used to people fighting. One thing that I also want to say, and this is completely off topic, but like I was watching the roast of Tom Brady last night. Did you watch that?
No.
Okay, well, it's on Netflix. There's points that are really funny. And like, have you ever watched a roast before?
I hate roasts.
Really?
I just think it's so mean.
Yeah, that's the point.
I know, but I just
Fucking vicious. It's so bad. If you're a person that signs up for a roast, I think you're an idiot because I would fucking fold into myself and I would never come back out. Like, I would be destroyed. But people, they know what they're getting into, right? Anyway, it got like weird when the NFL players would go up and roast them because it was always like gay jokes. Like, so homophobic. And I'm like, this is like, is this still funny? Is it funny to be like, Tom Brady, you're gay?
no.
How is that funny? And I think that is still part of the culture, like in such a big way that like being a gay man is a funny thing. And I'm like, oh, we're not past that as a society. Oh, okay. That's going to take a little while longer. That men can't like fucking handle their own masculinity to the point that like any effeminate thing is like gay and gay equals embarrassing.
Yeah, that is like such a common trope, especially I think within the sports world. It's funny because within female sports, they're like, I'm not someone that participates in sports ball, but my partner's really into sports, and like there is a good percentage, like they are lesbians and bisexual women are overrepresented in female sports, whereas gay men are underrepresented.
That's, what an interesting concept that is. Yeah, like, okay, so I'm a hockey fan and I don't think that there are any players that are out. And I'm like, clearly somebody's in the closet because like there's no way that across this entire fucking league, there's not one gay man.
But it's the culture.
Yeah, it's the culture. I know that they're trying to like change it and whatever. I mean, it's going to take a very long time, but I just sometimes forget that culture still exists because it just absolutely doesn't exist in my life. In the life that I live day to day, it's not homophobic. My husband and I were watching and I don't get offended too badly by jokes. Like I do want to just take things in stride, but eventually during the roast, I'm like, okay, this is just like straight up homophobic. I do not understand why this is so funny anymore. It just felt like very like 1980s. I just forgot. I didn't realize that this trope still existed. So what I want to say about these people that leave these comments, like they probably would have found that funny because they're like, yeah, gay is bad.
Yeah.
We're not saying anything negative about Joseph because he might have been queer.
No. Like we are just roasting his character slightly.
Just slightly. He seems like a little bit of a weenie, but that doesn't mean anything in terms of his queerness.
Yeah, not weenie as being gay. Weenie as being like just like a tattletale.
Yeah.
And maybe weenie's not the correct term to use. I don't know if that's an okay term. Tell me if it isn't.
Oh, I thought it might be. I mean, it's kind of funny.
Weenie.
I just like saying it, but yeah, maybe it's not, but tattletale is probably fine. Like, do you have a comment you want to read?
Yeah. So this was Buddy responded to my Harrison butt crack thing. And we had a little bit of a dialogue and he essentially said, no one, Harrison or me, said women should stay at home.
Yes, he did. He literally did.
So at first I replied to one of his comments and I said, again, why are we saying women should be staying at home and not men? I have children and love them more than anything, but I am also in a helping profession and help people every day. The other host of this podcast is a stay-at-home mom. Guess what? All women want is freedom and choice without men like you telling us what our higher calling is. And then he said back to me,
well, he says that both men and women's greatest calling is to raise the next generation. First of all, I do not believe that. I don't think that's true. I think that's very black and white thinking and very like weird traditional patriarchal thinking.
Back into this next one, it's just so condescending. Like it makes me so mad. He says, no one, not Harrison or me, said that women should stay at home. If you're hearing this, the corporate world has successfully worked its magic to make you a slave to climbing your ladder onto false terms. What is being
Bro.
said is that a woman should not feel like a failure for compromising or choosing to be a homemaker above a career. Yes, when it comes down to it, the house needs a parent and work needs a parent. Women should have the right to call the shots and be the homemaker, while men should have the responsibility to provide. I believe in different fittings for genders, and if a woman want to be the one going to war when the man is raising the kids, then they are good with this arrangement. I hope it works out for them and their natural genetic and emotional tendencies.
I am so fucking annoyed when somebody comments. Now we're just fired up.
The going to the war thing, yeah.
Yeah, women can't get drafted. That drives me fucking crazy. I'm like, okay, bro, have you ever been drafted? This guy that commented looks like he would fold immediately if he had to go to war, like the rest of us, because we're all fucking soft. But also, this guy, and I hate that we're even talking about this, we're giving him this airtime because we shouldn't, but these are the type of comments that we get, and it just goes to show that, like, I watched that Harrison video, and, like, he is 100% saying that women should stay home.
Yeah, his wife's life didn't begin until she had her children.
Yes, like, there are no other interpretations of that, and I don't like to be super fucking black and white about it, but, like, yeah, he said that, and he said it, he goes, ladies, this is for you specifically. That's what's so interesting is that he said, no one said this, but, like, we agree with it. This commenter is saying, nobody said that, yet he's defending it.
It's so gaslighty. Like, it's like,
this guy sucks.
But then what I said back to him, I just thought it was funny. I said, thank you for sharing your thoughts and opinions. This is a discussion that would be much easier not to have in a comment section. I'm glad we agree on people having choices and freedom to do whatever they want. You're welcome here with your natural, genetic, and emotional tendencies. Have a good day, sir.
The genetic and emotional tendencies.
Just that line, I was like, oh, my emotional tendencies are coming out right now.
That guy's poor wife. I would lose my mind if my husband ever.
This is an excellent example of someone we don't agree with, and I'm not going to block the guy.
Sarah's not going to leave it, and Sarah also is going to be nice to you. Like, you're going to be, like, annoyingly calm about it, which pisses people off more, which is hilarious.
I am so appreciative of all of our Instagram peeps that are constantly, dealing with these people spouting nonsense in the comments.
Yeah, people do defend reason within the comments, and I think it's nice.
And we have a ton of great listeners. The he's, the she's, and the theys. Appreciate all of you.
Anyway, we got completely off topic reading our Instagram comments. We don't really do that a lot. So
also, one thing that we glossed over in this story was slavery. Just another example of how slavery was common practice in the cultural period of the Bible, and it was something that wasn't necessarily viewed as abhorrent. It was wrong for them to sell them into slavery, but, like, just recognizing that slavery is universally wrong and awful.
Nobody was batting an eye really about the slavery part.
Paul commands masters how to treat the slaves, and he tells slaves to submit to their masters.
He wasn't revolutionizing the culture in any way.
No. And so that's where sometimes I look at the Bible and I'm like, is it holy? Is it actually holy?
Well, it depends on your definition of holy.
And your interpretation of the Bible.
People are like, well, it's the cultural context of the time. But people were practicing this religion and owning slaves, and also did it not that long ago with this transatlantic slave trade. So is it holy, or is it just a piece of writing that people can use for their own gain?
And so I think just acknowledging that that's not something that should ever be glossed over. And, like,
the context of slavery within the Bible is its own. That's a whole subject that, the way that people within the church always justified it was that it was a different culture. Does that make it right? Does it make me want to follow this God? No.
I think the problem, though, is that when people are like, the Bible's clear. No, it is not, because the Bible was used to justify slavery, and it was also used to abolish slavery. The Bible was used to justify discriminating against LGBT people. Guess what? People also use the Bible to say that God loves everyone and everyone is special and beautiful. People interpret it how they want.
The Bible is not clear. The Bible is completely obscure and used for all sorts of different reasons. So
the Bible is clear that Joe is queer.
Yeah.
Just joking, but it rhymes, so it's
good tagline. Yeah, it rhymes, so it has to be true.
But you know what? Okay, we're gonna circle back to Pride. Are you doing anything special for Pride, Jess?
Oh, I don't know. Okay, my daughter could be old enough for me to go to the parade if there's a parade. I live in Vancouver.
It's
so
Vancouver. There's definitely a
there's
parade.
definitely some stuff going on. But like last year, she was so young. I was like, she'll have no idea what's happening. But you know, it's funny. We were just on a trip, and she found like a pride flag and was like grabbing it, and she's like, colorful, colorful. I love the flag. And we were like, yay.
It's just like Joseph's coat.
Yeah. I don't have any plans right now, but anything can happen, and there's probably stuff happening around me in my city. But what about you?
So it happens in my city in July, and I will be in Italy then seeing Taylor Swift. So I will not be celebrating Pride in that way. And in Italy, I'm just going to be friends with my girlfriend because they don't necessarily love gay people there.
Oh, they don't?
No, they don't.
Oh, too Catholic, eh?
Too Catholic, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, yeah, I'm not really. I got this hat,
Yeah, you got your hat.
Toronto Maple Leafs. It's Pride hat.
You got that Pride hat.
Oh wait, no,
And
it's what's the baseball one?
Is that the Blue Jays?
Blue Jays.
Oh God, you don't even have the right team.
I mean the Blue Jays. I don't have the right sport.
Sarah doesn't know much about the sports.
The Blue Jays. Sorry, I knew that. It's the Blue Jays.
Yes, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I don't have any Pride gear, but I support everybody because I just want everyone to live their best life.
But I think that for our shout out, which we don't always remember to do,
Yes, our
like,
shout
for
out.
our shout out, we can each pick a queer person to shout out, like a queer artist or like a queer person in this evangelical space that we have found helpful. You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
I am going to say Flamey Grant. Super funny, great music, very deconstruction-y. Love it. We are going to hopefully get him to come on the podcast at some point. So check out Flamey Grant. And we'll include his Instagram in the bio.
Okay, so then I have to do one. I don't really go on social media, so I don't know. And I don't listen to music because I'm a loser. And I right now I'm only listening to kids' music and I'm going insane.
So Jojo Siwa, is that who you're shouting out?
No. Did you know that she created queer pop? Did you know that she created the whole genre?
Yeah, she did. It's crazy. Like
It's
almost
crazy.
Like all the other people like Tegan and Sarah never
I
existed.
can't even believe it. I can't even believe it.
Did you know she's the first influencer to do music?
All right. You know what? I'm going to shout out you, Sarah, because you are a queer creator and you're sitting right in front of me right now. And I know you the best out of everyone that is on our Instagram. I don't know but you are a queer influencer and you have built that Instagram from bottom up. And we are almost at 10,000 followers, and that's very exciting. So I will shout you out, Sarah, because you do all the legwork in the social media and I don't participate at all. I actually jumped in the other day and wrote a comment because like basically I'll go on Instagram every couple days only to look at Sarah's posts and sometimes like and comment them. And then I just go off Instagram.
What one did you like?
It was about virginity. Oh, you know what I really liked? Was your post that says slut is attacking women for the right to say yes, friend zone is attacking women for the right to say no, and bitch is attacking women for the right to call you on it. I thought that was sick. That's a good one.
Thank
you got a lot of
you.
likes on
Thank
that one.
you.
That was a really good one.
For reference, Jessica gave me 5 flames in her comment. Not every day that you get 5
Fire,
flames.
fire. That's what I said. So yeah, you are my shout out today, Sarah. I'm sorry if that's a cop out, guys. Sarah did a good one. And do we have a story time with Sarah today, or do you think that like that's done because we did the Joseph story?
I think it's done.
Is that it?
I think that's it.
Oh, wow.
So let us know how you're spending your Pride Month. Let us know if there's anyone else in the Bible that you think is queer and you want us to do a deep dive on and get more mean comments about how people are mad about us interpreting the Bible from a lens.
Yeah, because being queer apparently is just so awful.
And if you want to go even deeper in the dive, this sounds very gay. If you want to go deeper in the dive, you can check out the links and articles attached to the show notes.
Yes. We always have all the links in the show notes if you guys are interested. And that's it. Go check out our bonus episodes on Patreon. Let us know what you think of our episodes. Message us. We never hear from anyone.
We didn't hear from people because the messages were off by mistake.
Oh, yes.
I was like, oh, crap.
So for like weeks, we were like, no one messages us. And then Sarah checked, and I guess
Anyone who we didn't follow couldn't message us for a while.
Yeah. So now you can. Sorry, guys.
Now you can. Share with us your queer creators and check out our deconstruction playlist. I think that's on our link tree.
Yeah.
And there's lots and lots and lots queer, gay,
Queer artists. So thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.
have a gay day.
Have a gay day.
No